Now, we've this week been hearing a number of voices, people that were in contact and were touched by the late Arch during the course of his long life of service. We talk now to one of those voices, and that's former anti-apartheid activist Professor Saths Cooper, to reflect on the life and legacy of the late Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. Prof, thanks very much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start with perhaps your youth, when you were a young man and when you first met the Arch. What was he like then, and what were your first impressions of him?
Well, what you saw and what you heard is what you got. This was an irrepressible, somebody who always was robust, somebody who always listened, somebody who always also taught and scolded. And he was, when he went to the Federal Seminary right next door to Fort Hare, he was the first Black lecturer at that institution and engaged with quite a few of the university Christian movement, and naturally with the Anglican and other religious and political leaders, and was enthused by Black theology, the quest for a liberatory gospel that tended to get reduced during the apartheid era, because the apartheid era wanted blacks to ken your black, that you were only hewers of wood and drawers of water. But for him, Christ was a liberating Christ. He was somebody that we should have emulated, and he engaged with many leaders from that time. My fondest engagements with him were after I came out of Robben Island prison after over 8 years and began to bring different people together from different spheres to create a national forum of understanding against the apartheid system. And he willingly agreed to get involved. He also warned that there are some youngsters who I should be very clear to exclude, because they would be very destructive in what they did. And each time I asked him who he meant, and he said, "You will find out." And indeed, over time, I realized he was talking about those who nowadays we'd call those involved in cancel culture, just being against for the sake of being, if you did not adhere to their version of liberation. And as Manas Buthelezi then put it, that you cannot ask me to not speak to somebody unless he accepts my version of the Bible. So Archbishop Desmond Tutu was truly somebody who was available to all. He spoke to, addressed oppressors in very trying circumstances. And now that memory may be very dimmed, but he was a brave person to stand up, like those others who did stand up. He was a pioneer in getting the church, getting faith organizations to be involved in opposing apartheid, because before his advent, very few people who were in the clergy were willing to stick their necks out. And that's why the University Christian Movement student leadership began, and soon thereafter, the South African Students' Organization began, with legendary leaders like Stan Ntwasa, like Reverend Reuben Phillip from his own church, Dr. Bani Pichana, also Reverend from the Anglican Church, Steve Biko, various leaders in shaping Black consciousness, getting people to shed their fear of the system. And his was an inspiring role, because he not only taught, but he participated in his belief and was that champion for human rights in all their spheres. And that's why at this time, there's been that universal, spontaneous and very fond remembrance of him from quarters that we would not expect from all over the world. And that this man is a massive loss to us as a country, but also to the world, because we don't have that caliber of leadership striding our stages and telling us where to go right when we deviate. And we've seen since the retirement of persons like him that leadership in all spheres has been wanting, not only in our country, but across the world. And many can take a leadership lesson from his quest, from the struggles he engaged in here and everywhere else. Who can forget that when he was going to celebrate his 80th birthday, our government, in a very mean-spirited way, refused a visa to the Dalai Lama. I mean, you even had some of those who are praising him now who are questioning who is this man, and how can this person wearing a robe tell us what to do, etc., etc. And I think it's to their chagrin that he survived. He was the personality that could survive, but he also warned us about that slippery slope. And I think that is with us now. So those are some of the kinds of things.
And he certainly, one thing that's come through consistently is that he was not afraid to speak his mind throughout his life. Is that something that you experienced of him at the various decades you knew him?
Absolutely. He would speak his mind, but also be open to persuasion. And, you know, initially when he came across Black consciousness, he questioned it, but then took to it and espoused it. He was really open to all the different tendencies in this country. And that's why he presided over the funerals of Black consciousness, Steve Biko, over Robert Sobukwe's funeral, and even Chris Hani's funeral. This was somebody revered and loved by all. And it's fitting that he's been accorded the status of the official funeral that puts him right on top, as he should be. It's a pity that in his life, the things he raised with political leadership was not taken to heart. People did not listen. Instead, they tended to vilify. But he was also able to laugh at himself, laugh at our condition, say things which very few people could say and get away with it. And so it was somebody who had that impish sense of humor. The best humor is where you actually laugh at yourself and have the capacity to laugh at yourself. And that was quintessential Desmond Mpilo Tutu.
And he would say jokes, and often they would be about himself. And I guess it was to make people feel better.
Yes, you know, when he got the inaugural Steve Biko Award for Psychological Liberation in July 2012, it was in front of over 6,000 delegates from 103 countries. And it was given by Nkosinathi Biko, by Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke, and the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay. And when in his acceptance speech, he actually talked of how we used to harass him and always talk about this black thing. And he began to understand it when he went abroad and saw that people were the same. He saw that there were people doing menial work who were white. And he made the self-observation that the first time He was in a plane piloted by a black pilot, was in Nigeria internally, and he welcomed that. He felt a sense of pride, and the plane took off, and lo and behold, there was turbulence. And the plane was really, he felt that this plane was going to go down, and he started praying, "Oh Lord, I know I'm black, but why did you have to give me a black pilot? Couldn't it have been a white pilot? Maybe I would be saved." It was that kind of thing. And I tell you, he always wowed people. I've been in meetings, major meetings in New York and elsewhere, where he was given pop star status. And rightly, he got the Nobel Peace Prize. And that status was given beyond the confines of the church that he led. And I can only think of, on the other side, the Catholic popes who have assumed a rock star status. I don't know of any other person of the cloth who has been as fated as Archbishop Desmond Tutu was, but by all, and of course he would be open, chatting, shaking hands, hugging people, and he had to be taken away because, for his next appointment. Otherwise, he would have been late. So it was that kind of mobbing that he enjoyed. And in this period, I think it's not merely the mourning to his family, to his close friends, the archbishops who succeeded him, and others. This is a time really where we truly celebrate one who gave his all to bring us where we are and for a better understanding of ourselves. And that quest for reconciliation, that quest for nationhood, which we still are far from achieving. He started with the TRC journey on, but political wiles prevented the outcomes of the TRC from being fully followed. And it's only this current Minister of Justice who is beginning to take up the report and investigate those perpetrators, because there's a deep wound, there's a profound chasm in our society, and it's not going to heal spontaneously. A problem doesn't solve itself. We need people to actually understand where we've come from, to put to bed the racism, the bigotry, the violence of the past, so that our children can grow up in a better world where whatever's happened, the baggage of our past, don't become the nightmares that our children will inherit.
We've run out of time, but I think perhaps as a final thought, I wonder what leadership qualities that are missing now when people like the Arch have left us behind.
This I think is something we confronted when 2013 our founding president Mandela passed on, and this is another moment. And I think that current and past leadership can take a leaf from his book, and that is be open, be truthful, be honest, say what needs to be said, but also work towards creating a better me and a better you through engagement. Let the anger take its own place in our history, but not interfere in what we're doing now. And be one with the people in the same way that he has been adored by millions of people in this country and elsewhere on the continent and wherever. You can endear yourselves if you listen and you speak. The word needs to be your bond, and that was Desmond Tutu.
All right. Professor Saths Cooper, thank you so much indeed for joining us and sharing those precious memories with us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.